we're back. What a busy July. We enjoyed our month off. We hope you enjoyed one as well. I'm Dr. Tomi White Bryan. I'm a coach and consultant in human and organizational performance and the creator of Emotional Intelligence 3.0, a system for achieving extraordinary performance. Our episode guest, Jerry Millhon, is one of the most magnificent human beings I've ever met. I've learned Jerry, I'm already crying. I can't even get through the introduction. I love you so much.
Thank you.
I've learned so much from Jerry. He gifted me a remarkable book, Enter the Luminous, and that is what occurs for me every time I'm in Jerry's presence. Before we jump into the story of your sacred gut punch, Jerry, tell us about you and the work that you do, please.
Tomi, it's really good to be with you. And thank you for all those emotional charges in my system. It's all difference in the world. It's really what it's about in all this work we're doing. It's about the connections we have. I have had a really unbelievable career. I'm now almost entering my 85th year. I've been able to travel 5 of the Caminos. I've been able to do an unbelievable number of races with both biking and hiking and running. And it's important, I've been able to work with people as both a teacher, a head of a school, started a computer company when I was in my 40s, have been a consultant to a number of schools and educational systems. And then I try to look at my 40s on as a opportunity each decade to do just something different so I could meet new people. That was sort of my goal. And I did that. I did start this computer company, and I met an unbelievable number of people, including Steve Jobs and other crazy, interesting human beings. Got to work with the McDonald's Corporation and put all their software in for fundraising. I actually then went into consulting with various organizations, and I did that for a couple of years. But I found when I was consulting that I really had a side of me that hated it because I'd come back and I felt like I had opened the chapter again and felt a little bit sad about the take-in of people. Maybe and I was more not effective there. So I decided in the years from 1990 on to become an interim leader for organizations. And I ran a unbelievable wildlife wildlife program in Texas. I did 4 years of work with an amazing group of people in San Francisco, working with a variety of heart diseases, and was head of their foundation. Learned so much there. Ran a school, then came back to Whidbey Island where I lived since 1996 and headed up an organization called the Whidbey Institute. And at that time, I was really a retirement guy. I'm not a cell in my body wanting to retire. And so I started, as I was leading this institution called the Whidbey Institute on Whidbey Island, in 2012, I started to explore the question of what are really the basics in communities that make them thrive. And I had a lovely friend, lady who was doing film work, and we together with another person began to do a series of short films on what an impact that a thriving organization or in a community can have and how it would be less than if it weren't there. We explored that. I played with the opportunity. I've always been playing with things in my life about what ifs. What's the story behind the story? And why did I take this job? Why did I not? And one of the questions I asked, and this is just about sort of my venture, is I wondered if I could take on a project of this nature without ever having a salary. I wondered if I could have as much fun in an organization if I didn't have a salary at all than if I had a 150, 200, $300,000 salary. What I proved to myself after the fourth year, I was so engaged and in love with the work that I much rather have people who work with me get fully paid and not be paid myself. And I found that to be a really revealing and interesting part of my life. We are now in our fifth, 13th, 14th year, thriving communities. And I have absolutely adored and loved the work I've been involved with. We've been finding organizations around the country that have sort of a call to us as to why they're unique. And we've filmed organizations in Richmond, Virginia, Cleveland, Ohio, in Milwaukee, places around the country, especially in New Mexico, where we filmed Native American Navajo farmer who has been a blessing to me. I learn as much from them as I ever could ever have been in any job I ever did. So we've now produced 60 films since 2012.
Wow.
And my sacred gut punch occurred while out on a training ride for a trip I was going to take with a group of old men who are really good bicyclists. In September, I was on a training ride and I came around a curve on a downhill and a car was out of his lane and approached me, and I jumped my bike off into the side at a pretty fast rate of speed. And I thought it was a grassy area. It wasn't. It was rocky, small rocks. And I ended up with a broken neck. So the sacred gut punch was a moment of my own personal truth as I awakened after hitting or sort of nudging or hitting a rock at the end of my slide on my back, which broke my back and a couple places in my spine.
So this was just almost a year ago, correct?
August 14th, 2024.
Right. 2024.
So I'm 11 months into repair.
Right. Right. And so, Jerry, you've said a couple of things. One, so at this time when this happened, you were 84, 83?
I was 84.
Right. So you're riding your bike at 84, which is remarkable in and of itself.
Now, listen, to me, that sounds wonderful that you're saying that, but I was riding 80 miles a week. And I just have loved being supported by the energy that I give and take by doing exercise. So yes, I was 84. I thought it wasn't very remarkable. I was just on a training run. But your answer, yes, that's where I was.
Yeah. And so Jerry, for our listeners, you and I met each other through a practice of community we belong to.
Yes.
And have been part of since 2012. So I've known you for 13 or 14 years now. And all of us in that group, you have been such a remarkable role model for us on how to age with grace and power and good health. And so for you to be injured in this bike accident totally turned your world upside down.
Well, it's funny that you phrase it that way, because I think I had two reactions to it. It did flip my world, as I actually found that the first lucky thing that happened to me was when I came to the rest after scooting on my back at 18 miles an hour or whatever I was doing. I realized that I was totally a quad.
Oh, my goodness.
And the only thing I could feel was my head.
Wow.
And within 15 seconds, my arms felt awake. And I actually didn't reflect on that much till months later, that I don't know how in the heck that happened, but grace of God gave me my first major step forward in healing. And that was to be able to use upper part of my body. So I'm paralyzed from my navel down to my toes. And the second part of the response to your question is it was totally a shift in everything. I think I was numb, but I was certainly awake all the way to the hospital. They flew me from the island I live on in a helicopter over to one of the major institutions called Harborview Hospital in Seattle. And I was awake most of the time and pondering sort of a, a quietness and might have been called shock. I don't know if it was shock. I had a real sense that my first stage of luck had just happened. And I thought into my own mind, okay, game on. What's next? So there was a sense right from the beginning of hope. I had even dreamed of walking by November of last year. I've been, I'm cockeyed optimist on almost everything, but that was really the first stage of coming out of the accident. So I'll leave it next to you in your next questions.
Well, one of the things, Jerry, is that you've spent all these years creating these films of community. I mean, the organization is Thriving Communities, and you have been so beautifully documenting what these lovely communities look like that build community. And in that, you've been building community. And I loved how that community came to your aid in the wake of your healing.
It was, unfortunately, in the first month and a half, I went through a pretty rough stage at the beginning because 1 week after I was in rehab, and 1 week after I was in the hospital starting rehab, I got pneumonia. And so I was sent down to what I call purgatory, which was ICU. And very few people could see me. And I was just sort of delirious for a week. I remember with unbelievable fright the experience of searching for my breath and being checked 24/7. Unbeknownst to me, my daughter had put me on the Caring Bridge, and the word got around what had happened, and a whole host of community, including the group you and I are part of, including the people in Thriving Communities, and people on the island where I live, just came together with unbelievable notes and cards and support. And I didn't realize that impact until I got home and realized the box of letters, which was about 800 of them.
Wow.
700 of them were tucked nicely because of my partner, Pam, had put them all together. So I began to realize another sort of resurgence of community. It was a felt community initially. It was dearly felt by my daughter and her family who live in Seattle, and Pam, who came together and really vigilant and taking care of me. But there were so many shifts going on at that time that I just didn't quite understand the depth of what I was involved with this accident. But I did get a unbelievable sense and feeling of the support and the healing energy sent by so many people. I almost imagine it every night flowing into the room and circling over my bed. And that community exists to this day. And I'm just so grateful that it's been a part of me. Recently, I received a song that I dearly love, which is done by a group called Heavy Diamond Ring in Denver, Colorado. And the song is Don't Go It Alone. Mm. That song it was sent to me a couple months ago, and it just reminds me that this whole journey is not one of solo explorer, that there are so many that are not letting you go it alone. And it's so important. Anyway, that's a long response to your question. I'm not even sure I got it right. But community has meant everything to me.
Well, there's no right or wrong here, right?
Right.
It's well, and I wonder, has your opinion, your views, your experiences of the importance of community changed since you've had this experience post injury?
Well, yes, it has. It's been much more inclusive. I speak a lot of something that hit me 5 months in when a dear friend wrote me and said, "What experience have you undergone or learned that you wouldn't have had if you had this experience?" And I said immediately that angels surrounded me. And by that, I mean, from the first moment when they put me in that car to go to the little station where the helicopter would come in, to the nurses who greeted me at the hospital and just warmly looked in my face and took care of me, and those who reported back to my daughter and Pam that my spinal cord was not severed, that all those people, and then all the people in rehab, and many nurses, I could tell you story after story of people who emerged coming right around the corner and into my life. And there was something that extended that sense of community far more than the community that I had known, because this was a host of unknown people. Didn't know me from hole in the wall, and were giving their life force to me to be better. And I can say without doubt that that happened to me at the hospital, and it happened to me at the care facility where I went 3 months after leaving the hospital, to even to this day where someone comes in, a man who comes into my life, who visited me once at the care facility, and he walked in and greeted me. His name is Bruce. And he said, "I think I'm supposed to be here.
Wow.
Pam told me about you." And I said, "Why are you supposed to be here?" He says, "I had the same accident you did 20 years ago."
Wow.
Remember what I said at the beginning? He walked in and he drove himself down from Whidbey Island. And when we got back to the island, he, along with his wife, wrote his doctor, who had helped him as a researcher on electrostimulation of the spinal cord. And within 5 hours, his doctor got back to me, his
Wow.
researcher. And they put me in fast track for any possible clinical study. And within 5 days, I got a note back from the head of the team saying, "Jerry, we can't take you now because you're over 70. But do you want to keep into this?" And I said, "Absolutely." I expected no more, no less than that, because I've heard before that the study had limitations. But the mere fact that this man, this angel, had written his doctor, and his doctor had so much faith in Bruce that he wrote me right back and told me what I needed to do, was just mind-boggling to me. This whole area of medical, clinical stuff is slow-mo in its worst form. You rarely get people to get back. You can't even get to your doctor on a telephone call. And have this happen in 5 days, I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. But an angel, and they appear to this day. I'm actually now including angels that I'm meeting on the web who are doing peer counseling. And some of those are quads, and some of those are people who are now mobile, like to a degree like I am. But that is ever increasing and ever increasing my aptitude for finding out more and where I can give back.
Wow, Jerry. Wow, wow, wow. And so as you share that, two things come up for me. One, what a beautiful role model Bruce is for where you can go.
Absolutely right. Bruce is a perfect role model. He's doing some amazing work himself. I hope I can help him and support it. And there's a club out there. After 4 weeks at Harborview, I was in rehab doing transfers from my wheelchair onto a mat and learning all about how I have to do things differently. And as I left one of the meetings, one of those times, a guy in a wheelchair came up, and he and his wife pulled up, and he said, "Jerry, I just want to introduce myself. I have a program and organization that helps people who've had handicaps. I am almost a quad. I have a child. I have a wife. I am here to help any way I can." And for that quick moment, I realized I'd moved to another club, another organization, another network, another group of people who, like, if I were in conversation with Tomi Bryant, I could not explain to her what was going on in my body that she would have any general recognition because it's so unique.
Right.
With this group of people, everybody has a common story. It's, how is the paralysis working with you? Do you have a XYZ kinds of things? Are you able to tie your shoes? Are you able to put on your socks? All those questions that you and I would never have even broached if we were just having a conversation before the accident.
So it sounds like you've been blessed to have these communities show up for you. And, I think back to a client I had who gave one of his kidneys to his daughter. And I caught up with him a couple of days afterwards, and he's like, I need to speak to someone who's been through the same thing.
Yes.
Right? Because they know exactly what I've been through. And so having a role model or having someone be in the same situation is so essential. But Jerry, as you're talking about these beautiful angels that show up, I realized a couple of weeks ago that I live in a place where extraordinary roams free, even when bad things happen.
Yep.
And that is what I hear you saying, is that even though this thing that we as humans would classify as bad, you had a horrible accident and now you're struggling to regain the ability to walk, and it's a long road of recovery, it's still where extraordinary roams.
Yes. I'm finding that the word bad, taken upon just its solo meaning, doesn't fit here. The word is hard, and the word is difficult, and the word is trying and challenging. But if I considered this necessarily bad, I think my approach each day would be quite different. I'm caught by the opportunity of accessing micro achievements in my body. If I were talking with you 5 months ago, I couldn't do this with my left hand.
Couldn't wave your hand at me,
No,
right?
no. If I were talking to you 4 months ago, I would possibly be able to do maybe 200 pull-ups at the end of my bed each morning. Now I do 400, 450. And I know that's building body muscle, which I need immensely to be able to move around and do the things I need to do. If I were talking to you 4 months ago, I would say that my breathing, you would say, Jerry, do you need a drink? Are you fully, do you have a cold? It was because my breathing wasn't back to normal. So I can have a conversation and maybe clear my throat once, but not have any problem talking or being in a constant flow of breathing. All those kinds of things are micro sort of assessments that not only buoy me each day, but challenge me to move to the next steps. And I'm able right now to move into what they call a sit to stand chair, which enables me to put this thing around my rear end and enables me to stand up, and I can stand up for an hour and 15 minutes. I could actually stand up longer than that if I needed to, but I'm not running a marathon here. And it allows better circulation in my body. I know its impact already has been powerful. And so, the people who are caretaking, working with me, have encouraged me to keep a goal of being able to get in a car myself. Right now, I have to get into a van and wheel into a van, and I would love to be able, in a couple of months, to be able to shift my rear end into the front passenger seat of a car. But, all those things give me the freedom to think that I can.
Yeah. Well, so Jerry, along with everybody who's listening, I hope they'll join me in wishing that for you too, that goal comes true. And I love the reframe that you just gave us. I tell my children there are no good or bad things, there are just things.
Yep.
And that's what I hear you saying. This is not good or bad, it's just a thing and it happens to be a hard one.
I think you're right, Tommy. But I think that it goes deeper than that. I think the real question is, can you reframe your life with a sense of opportunity and growth and progress and not be held back by the disappearance of what you thought you were? One of the things I think has been interesting for me, about 4 months ago, 3 months ago, I had a real meltdown and just really wanted to disappear from the planet. And out of that came a real request from my care team to take a look at a possibility doing trauma therapy, which I did and have been doing. It has been an unbelievable sort of experience because I told the doctor a couple of weeks ago, what I'm finding is that most of Jerry is still here. And that the Jerry that isn't here is found right between his navel and his toes. And it's physical. And I believe with brain connection to my body, eventually those connections will reoccur. But what's really important is that as I look at this kind of thing, what is really exciting about this all is that it's all embedded with a certain level of hope. And I told the doctor that I feel I'm probably through the therapy that we need to play with trauma, because I begin to realize, A, that I had no options at the accident. So I'm not going to be thinking every night about, oh, if I did this, I did that. No, Jerry, you did what you would have done 99 out of 100 times. And let it go. So the energy in that disappeared. And then the other part was realizing that the loss was a physical component and not a mental, and that my body physically looks the same. And I'm really here for the most part. What I'm finding really a joy is how can I find humor in all the things I'm playing with during the day versus looking at it with sort of questioning eyes. The whole idea of curiosity, you and I have talked about this, is really so important. And so being curious and being open has been part of my mantra.
So Jerry, for people who might experience something like this for themselves, do you think that's the key, being open and being curious to the growth that can come from it? Or is there something else you'd advise?
What a great question. I've had this thought in my mind that you knew months ago when you asked if I'd want to be on a sacred gut punch, and I said no, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, and I knew when I was. I wasn't ready to write about this until a couple of months ago, and now I'm starting to write about this. Your question's really important because as I'm writing and as I'm doing these kinds of things, podcasts on healing, I'm trying to figure out what I have to give to people in terms of recovery, because each one of our bodies is totally different. Yeah, it looks like pretty much the same on an X-ray, but the micro components are assembled differently. So I would take this comment as the only one that I think is worthwhile in response to your question. As soon as one can realize that the body is a machine that wants to repair itself and wants to heal, that's when you join the parade mentally
Wow.
and take it where it's going to take you. Realizing that negative input, a series of things that make you down, are not appropriate in this situation if one is ready to be open to that. The most important thing in my life is being able to realize this body is just unbelievable. 6 weeks after the incident, a dear friend who actually she had been doing my massages for the last 20 years came in and she said, Jerry, let me tell you something. Your body has undergone an unbelievable shock. It doesn't know what it's doing right now. It has no clue what to assemble, reassemble, put back together, put apart. It is in confusion. You got that? I said, yeah, pretty extreme. And she says, yeah, there's nothing here right now that it has any sense of order. You can eat, you can exercise and all that, but the cells in the body are in giant question mark. She said, you're going to be okay. But remember, this is a journey, and let the body begin to reassemble. Give it the time. Don't be impatient. Understand that it wants to heal. And that was a hard one for me that day. Impatience has been part of my culture, personal culture. So that was a tough one, but I actually think when I moved into the level of being patient with my body and letting it begin to heal, I would find things that would be ready to do that I hadn't done 4 days ago or 8 days ago, that the body had actually adapted and grown and was ready to do the next step. And so that's why I say that I can't preach for anybody what is the right way, but I can say that those of us with normal bodies, they're ready to work with you.
Wow, Jerry, that's beautiful. And again, your massage therapist, just another angel,
Oh, yeah.
just an extraordinary person who roams free in your space, shows up and gives you some wisdom that helps you move to the next place. How beautiful.
Well, beyond that, she said, after her first massage, I said, now, what do I owe you? She said, Jerry, 15 years ago, I fell and hurt my hand. There were a group of people on the island that allowed me to heal and helped me financially. You will owe me nothing.
Mm.
This is payback for your generosity. Years ago, I didn't even remember, but she stuck true to her word. And she comes almost every week, and she lives on the island. She comes almost every week to work with me. And I mean, she's deep massage and she's working stuff that I know my body's responding to, because when she leaves, they say, I want more. So,
Wow, Jerry, how beautiful that you are watching full circle moments with people you helped from the past get to return the favor. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, I'm over here in tears at how lovely the circle of life can be.
it absolutely is. It absolutely is. I have a dear friend who supported the Thriving Communities work for 10 years. She's now 92. She's not doing much of that anymore, but she's a dear friend. And so a couple of weeks ago, I said, "Hey, Nancy, you want to go to a Mariners game?" And she said, "Well, yeah, I'd love to go." I said, "So you and your caretaker will join Pam and me, and I have a dear friend who's been one of my lifelong friends, who we will get the tickets and we'll do it." And on the 18th of June, 6 of us went into the Seattle Mariners baseball, watch them play the Boston Red Sox. And it was my own little way of giving back for all her unbelievable support. And we didn't even need to talk about it because our friendship is that deep. But it was just so much fun to be able to see her experience something that she really loved doing during her life, her earlier years. So,
wow, Jerry, as I said, you're a magnificent human being. I've loved having you share your story and your wisdom. If someone wants to reach out to you, maybe they've got a similar injury, is there a place should they go to Thriving Communities to connect with you, or any thoughts on that?
actually, I would love for them to see the films that are all on Thriving Communities because they're all available. But jmillhon@gmail.com is the way I can be approached.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for your time, my dear friend. I love you.
Can I end it with something
Yes.
really important to me?
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Okay. You asked earlier if there's something I want that guides me a bit. And my answer is yes. And I was going to share what I mean by that. William Stafford wrote a poem that I love. There's a thread you follow. It goes among many things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. I've loved this poem for years. But Viktor Frankl actually explained the thread a little bit more to me, because he said, those that have a why to live can bear with almost any how, which makes a strong case for becoming very clear on your own why, your own thread, and finding ways to reaffirm this.
And Jerry, that's what your why has sustained you through this, your thread?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that poem is stunning.
It is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. I hope this has been helpful to you and to Sacred Gut Punch.
Thank you, Jerry. I love you dearly.
Thank you. And I love you back. Tomi, it's been great.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Sacred Gut Punch. I'd like to thank our sponsors who make this podcast possible, the EI 3.0 companies of Bryan Insights and the Center for Emotional Well-Being, and of course, always to my husband, attorney Jim Bryan. Thank you for your endless support and love. I love you to the moon and back, Jimmy. If you're finding inspiration in the stories, please like and subscribe to the podcast and share with your friends and family who can benefit from these stories of resilience and rising. And if you're experiencing a sacred gut punch, remember, while you may feel alone, you are not. Help is out there. If you or someone you know is in crisis and considering suicide or self-harm, please seek support. Call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988, or chat at 988lifeline.org. And if you're not in the United States, Befrienders worldwide at befrienders.org can help you. Until next time, dear ones, may you use the difficulty as you rise with grace.